welcome back to Get Down to Business. Joining me is a leader who experienced one of the most intense inflection points a professional can face, transitioning from a sales rep to the president of his family's company, Block Imaging, practically overnight. I'm joined by Josh Block, who took that leap at age 29 and realized very quickly that leadership isn't about titles, it's about character and humility. Under his leadership, the company has exploded from 30 million to 215 million dollars in revenue and expanded to over 400 team members worldwide. He's the author of the new book, People Matter at Work, Fostering a Culture Where Team Members Thrive and Everyone Wins. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So as mentioned, age 29, you were suddenly thrust into the presidency of Block Imaging. What was the hardest, moment that you went through during that first year when you realized that having the title didn't mean you had the answers?
Yeah, for sure. So you have all these people who've been looking to my dad, who started the company and was in his 60s at the time, and then transitioning to be led by a person who's 29 years old. And so I think getting over that imposter syndrome was significant, and just kind of balancing what were the strengths that I brought to bear, and then also learning to be comfortable and secure in all the things that I didn't know at the time.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. You've grown the company from 30 million to 215 million dollars while in revenue while keeping engagement at 90%. Most leaders assume that rapid growth and people first culture are in conflict. How do you use the we cycle to ensure that they fuel each other instead?
Yeah, so your culture is never stagnant, right? It's always evolving. And so what we've really tried to do from when we had 50 people to today, more than 400, when most of them were in Michigan and now today they're spread all over the United States, is we've really sought to enhance the culture. Is there's all sorts of opportunities that are there today that were not there when we were much smaller. And so we continue to carry our mission at the forefront, really let our values lead the way, and ultimately believe in and develop people.
Yeah, such great advice relevant to every business of every size. And we talk often here on Get Down to Business about stewardship of values. How do you ensure that your people matter philosophy remains alive inside your organization as you've scaled to, as mentioned in the intro, over 400 global team members?
Yeah, so for us, my recommendation to leaders is to not go searching for values, but actually to unearth the values that are already inside. It's much easier to embody who we are than to try to be someone different than we are. And so I think of when you sweat, what comes out, or if you were cut, what do you bleed? Is that for me, people matter is really, I'm imperfect, but intent on this belief that people matter more than anything. And then not only that, do I try to live it out, but try to hire people who want to be part of a culture where people matter more.
Yeah, and I'm gonna bounce around a little bit because I'm really curious just about your home life. You mentioned about your dad earlier, and I'm curious if these values are things that you've talked about before you even had the remotest idea that you were going to become the president of the company.
Yeah, I think my dad was incredibly hard worker, passionate about business, and my mom loves people. She's the kind of person, if you go into her house and you say that you like a dish or a piece of art, by the time you leave, she will have wrapped it up and put it in your car. So she's just an incredibly generous person. And so I think early on, that was a key part of who I was becoming. And then I owned a company in my 20s. It was a different organization. It really got to learn the power of work and to transform lives and to create security. And so I've really sought to shift this work as a 4-letter word to becoming something that people look forward to. And an answer to the question, what if we could create a place where people love to work?
Yeah. And really along those lines, I know that you argue that when work changes, home changes. That is so true. Can you share a story? You can do it anonymously, of course, of a team member whose, just internal operating system shifted because they finally felt safe and seen at work.
Yeah, I think of anyone who is a new parent, right? We have all sorts of team members over the last 15 years who've started a family. And so the story of Tyler is talked about in People Matter at Work. There are a number of keeping it real sections in the book. And Tyler has 3 kids, 2 sons and a daughter. And what is the difference between one work experience and another? One where he's thriving and taking risks and stretching himself, and he's respected by his leader and connected to the mission. And then he goes to another place where people don't really know his name, and there's a ton of pressure to perform, and he's just all of the things that would just drive anxiety. And take Tyler and send him home, and tell him to love his family. Which environment do you think is going to prime the pump for him to go home and be a better husband and father?
Absolutely, absolutely. So how do you move a team away from siloed thinking and self-interest without using the Darwinian pressure of fear?
Yeah, for me, again, I talked about belief and development is what do you believe about people? And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think they're lazy and you think that they're entitled, and I'm not saying there aren't people who are lazy and entitled, but eventually we want to create a culture where I think of the image of we're directing a rocket rather than pushing a rope. And when we believe in people and when we invite them into the fullness of their identity and challenge them, we're not talking about, when we talk about culture, we're not talking about just free yogurt and granola and making it really easy for people. We're talking about having hard conversations and inviting them to become a person in 10 years that they never dreamed of becoming today.
Absolutely. I'm chatting with Josh Block, who is the president of his family's company, Block Imaging, has substantially grown the organization, beginning as taking that leap at age 29. But he's the author of a new book, People Matter at Work, Fostering a Culture where team members thrive and everyone wins. We've been chatting a little bit about the We Cycle framework. We're going to continue that conversation when we come back in just a moment. But as always, check out my podcast, syklein.com. Or, of course, go in your favorite podcast app. Just search for Get Down to Business. Make sure you subscribe, rate, review, and share so you don't miss a single episode. We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial. Hey, welcome back to Get Down to Business. Once again, chatting with the author of the new book, People Matter at Work. I'm joined once again by Josh Block. Josh, you mentioned that leadership is about character and not titles. What is the first, we often have been using this term, this readback or thing that a leader should give to their team to establish a culture of humility and trust?
The first thing is vision, is that leaders talk to people about where we're going and the shift from here to there. And generally, it's either dissatisfaction with here or excitement around there, or maybe even both. But it all starts with this vision of what do we want to be when we grow up.
Yeah. And again, sharing that and leading from the top is so important. We've already talked about the culture that you've created within your team. I'm sure you're doing that with your middle managers as well. So something I think about a lot is I use the acronym BLUF, the bottom line up front. So I'm curious, what's the simple bottom line up front recognition system that any small business owner can implement tomorrow to start building a people first culture, regardless of what industry or size organization they may have?
Yeah, and organizational identity is so crucial, is that a leader without followers is just a person out for a walk. And so I talked about vision, but that really is birthed out of mission and values. And so I'd say an organizational identity is incredibly important, which functions as a magnet to draw people who are connected to that and to repel people who don't want anything to do with it. And then on a much more tangible and grassroots level, having one-on-ones is this whole idea of, well, I meet with this person every couple of months, and I really do this shift from micromanaging activities and then macro managing people. And so I just tell people what to do, but I don't really sit down with them. I just think one-on-ones on a consistent basis, every 2 weeks, ideally, and every 4 weeks if people are traveling, but sitting down and really understanding what's on people's mind and treating them as whole people, not as just task producers.
Yeah, and we're coming to the end of our time together. If a leader is currently managing a team that feels disconnected and passive, what's the first hidden driver that they should look at to reignite shared ownership and purpose?
Yeah, do people feel seen? Do they feel seen as whole people, or are they people who just get stuff done for you? And one of the things that I encourage people to do is to move at the pace of people. It is so worth it to, like, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, to sit down and get to know what's on people's minds from from what's going on in their family or what's causing stress or strain to operations and challenges, all the way to what they dream of in their role and career in the season ahead.
Absolutely. Well, I've certainly enjoyed this conversation. Again, Josh Block, and really looking forward to reading the book People Matter at Work, Fostering a Culture Where Team Members Thrive and Everyone Wins. Congratulations on all of the growth and success, and thanks for sharing some of the behind the scenes and some of the lessons learned. I'm sure it's not been all rainbows and butterflies, but we appreciate you sharing so much valuable information with our listeners. How can we find the book and how can we get in touch?
Yeah, the book is available, People Matter at Work, on Amazon and anywhere books are sold. Peoplematteratwork.com is the best way to dig in a little further. And then if anyone wants to reach out, they can do so at josh@peoplematteratwork.com.
Fantastic. Well, Josh, once again, congratulations. Thanks so much for sharing with us here on Get Down to Business. That's, believe it or not, a wrap for us this week on the show. What a jam-packed lineup we have had. I've learned so much from all of our guests, as I do each and every week. I love to hear from you, our listeners. So be sure to get on my website, syklein.com, syklein.com. Click that contact button. I love to hear from our listeners. I respond to every message. So please reach out. Let me know if there's a topic that you've just been dying to hear about. Maybe there's a guest that you want to recommend. Love to hear all about it. Be sure to check out our sponsors, Tom Arabali, for all things health insurance, Laura Catchman-Gervais for all things real estate in the Chicagoland area and beyond. And once again, go on your favorite podcast app, but subscribe, rate, review, and share. To success, let's get down to business.